Good morning, dear students. Welcome back to your English class. Today we will discuss chapter number 5, a musical instrument. Dear students, imagine you have to make a musical instrument. What would that instrument be? And what kind of sound will it have? Let's move on to a brief introduction of the poem Musical Instrument, which is written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. The poet described the decimation of riverbed and crafting of the god Pan's famous flute. God Pan is the main character of the poem. From the name itself, clear the Pan is some great personality having a head of a man and lower body part of a god. He is considered as a god who fell in the love with a wood nymph Syrinx. But Syrinx turned into reed in order to save herself from him. Great god Pan cut down 7 pieces of reed and fashioned them into the flute. This poem beautifully showcases how Pan destructs the reeds to find Syrinx and creates a flute. We can say also art is beautiful, but at the same time it can be destructive. Let's understand the poem. What was he doing, the great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river, spreading ruin and scattering ban, splashing and paddling with the hoof of a god, and breaking the golden lilies afloat with the dragonfly on the river? First of all, we will understand the meaning of some words. Pan, that means a half god, part man and part god. Reed, these are tall plants. Scattering means disperse or break down the things. Paddling, to move in water that is not very deep. And hoof is a horny part of a foot in animals. Let's understand the meaning. What was he doing, the great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river? In these lines, the poet begins with a question. He talks about the great god Pan. The Pan is known as a god of hunting and rusting music and shepherds. Pan goes down by the river in the reeds, spreading ruin and scattering bands, splashing, padding with the hoof of a god. Pan is creating a scene of destruction here. So he was ruining and scattering everything in the shallow water with his hands or legs. Breaking the golden lilies afloat with the dragonfly on the river. He was breaking the golden lilies which were floating on the river and harmed the dragonfly which were resting on those lilies. The stanza number 2. He tore out a reed and the great god Pan from the deep cool bed of the river. The limpid water turbidly ran, and the broken lilies a dying lay, and the dragonfly had fled away. Here he brought it out of the river. On word meanings: reed, tall plant; limpid water, that means clear water; turbidly, that means muddy; that means before, and fled, that means to run away. See the explanation. He tore out a reed, the great god Pan, from the deep cool bed of the river. In these lines, the poet tells an image of decay and death in search of the reed that he wants. The Pan tears a single reed out of the river bed in search of Syrinx. Limpid water turbidly ran, and the broken lilies a dying lay. As he tears the reed from the river, the clear water turns into the muddy water, and beautiful lilies now lay down and dying. And the dragonfly had fled away ere he brought it out of the river. Meaning of these last two lines, that is, the dragonfly flees from the river when the Pan pulls the reed out from the river. Because Pan is destroying the lilies and scaring of the dragonflies, he cut the reef, and that water, clear water of the river, is turned into muddy water. And here the poet witnessed that Pan is disrupting a piece of ecosystem. All these things were happen in the violent way. Let's understand the word meanings of stanza 3. Shore, edge of the river; seat, a desire; turbidly, that means muddy or dense cloudy; hacked, rough cut; hewed. Hewed means cleave, and bleak means bad, cold, or unpleasant. In this stanza, speaker describes how Pan has moved from the water to the shore. Let's see the lines. High on the shore, said the great god Pan, while turbidly flowed the river. That means poet tells here the Pan now sitting on the shore of the river, and Pan doesn't leave the reed alone, and the muddy, cloudy river still flows that time. Let's see the next lines. As hacked and hewed as a great god can, with his hard bleak steel at the patient reed. The Pan was so desperate to cut the reed, he was desperate to hacking or hewing the reed. So, with his steel knife, he was cutting all the leaves of the reed from its edges, and throughout this process, the reed is depicted as a patient and calm. Till there was not a sign of a leaf indeed to prove it fresh from the river. When he cut all the leaves from the reed, it looks fresh as it is looking before. Okay, it's no longer looks like it comes from river, but it is looking fresh. Let's see the stanza number 4. He cut it short, did the great god Pan, how tall it stood in the river. Now here, poet described that how Pan cut the reed short, and he trimmed the reed into a desired pieces. The great god Pan exclaimed in wonder, and how tall it stood in the river. The poet tells the reed is tall and beautiful. After getting cut, now it looks ugly. So, meaning of next line is then drew the pith like the heart of a man steadily from the outside ring, and notched the poor dry empty thing in holes as he sat by the river. Here the poet tells that removal of the pith, that means inner part of the reed, is like the removal of the heart of a man. Here the poet tells the reed has been killed by the god Pan. The Pan has cleared all the middle of the reeds before cutting and notches into. एंड नॉशंस का मीनिंग होता है हॉल्स बनाना किसी भी थिंग में. द स्पीकर एक्सप्रेसेस कंपैशन फॉर द रीड एंड रेफर्स इट as the poor, dry, empty thing. Now, reed has no life, no water. Here, the power of the god Pan is cause of this destruction. Let's understand the stanza number 5. This is the way laughed the great god Pan, laughed while he sat by the river, the only way since God began. The Pan was laughing and sitting by the river. He laughs and says that cutting the reed is the only way to make music. Here, in these lines, he is showing that he is taking revenge from the reed, and he is saying that because God first began to make beautiful music, and they found the only way to do by the fashioning such a reed. To make sweet music, they could succeed. Then, dropping his mouth in a hole in the reed, he blew in the power by the river. After saying this, he starts play his new musical instrument by the river and shows that he is the only one who has a power to blow this instrument. So he's showing his power here, and he's showing that he is empowering on a woman. Let's see what the poet says in stanza 6. Sweet, 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 O Pan, piercing sweet by the river, blinding sweet, O great god Pan, the sun on the hill forget to die, and lilies revived, and the dragonfly came back to dream on the river. Here, the Pan creates a sweet music. The speaker describes the effect of the music on the surrounding nature. The music is so beautiful. Here the music personified with the piercing sweet and blinding sweet. The sun fails to set, it remains in the sky and shine even brighter than before. And the lilies revive again, and the dying lilies revive again, and dragonflies revive again, and they returns back to the river to dream again. As you know, Pan created the flute at the cost of natural surroundings, but in this paragraph, the poet admires the Pan because after listening the music, the lilies and the dragonflies revive again. Now let's understand the stanza number 7. Yet half a beast and the great god Pan to laugh as he sits by the river. In this stanza, the speaker completes the story and says that Pan is the only half a man, half a beast, so he laughs by the river and thinks that by making a flute, he is become a god. Okay, so he is a half a man, half a god who brings beauty into Word. By making a poet out of a man, the true God sighed for the cost and pan, for the reed which grows never more again, as a reed with the reeds in the river. In this line, poet describes that, but the true God and true man does not do this action, because as the pan himself caused so much destruction to the nature to produce a beautiful music, because the reed could not grow again as the other reed in the river. So this kind of action will not happen with the real God. This is all about the beautiful poem which is written by Eliza Barrett Browning and a creation of a flute pan. Thank you. Have a nice day.